All right, so Russell Westbrook is still a free agent and has not found a new team to sign with headed into this upcoming season. And his situation is yet another chapter in this really sad book of us having to watch our favorite players of the 2010s have their careers either fizzle out a bit or see them just completely retire, right? As far as retirement, we just saw John Wall announce his retirement from professional basketball just a few days ago, right? And obviously he's been out of the league for a while now, but seeing that headline come across my screen, it was surreal because John Wall was one of the best players of the 2010s and definitely one of the most culturally relevant basketball players of that era as well. As far as seeing guys fizzle out, look at Damian Lillard and Paul George, right? Those two guys are no longer in the primes of their careers. You have to really ask yourself if we're ever going to see that elite superstar or all-star version of those guys at any point in time down the road. So that's almost a similar situation to Russell Westbrook and where he's at right now. And for Russ, he has always been an extremely divisive player through the course of his career. For him, the highs have been really high and the lows have been really low. The highs include an MVP award. They include multiple All-NBA appearances, multiple All-Star appearances. I think an All-Star MVP sprinkled in there. Also 2 scoring titles and a set of triple-double records that won't be broken for a very long time. So those were the highs. But the lows included him never getting a reliable enough jump shot, him going from team to team to team over like the back end of his career, and also the fact that he never was able to lead a team out of the first round of the playoffs as a number one option on the offensive end. So those things have made Russell Westbrook a very divisive player, right? And it's made his career very difficult to judge. And I feel like where Russell Westbrook is right now, we always knew in the back of our minds it would get to this point. So if you look at Russ, through his prime, through his best years, he relied heavily on his ridiculous athleticism. But we all know when players rely heavily on athleticism through the primes of their careers, in the back of our minds, we understand that at some point that athleticism is going to fizzle out. So they need to cultivate a skill set to fall back on when the athleticism is no longer there. Look at Ray Allen, right? When he was no longer a top priority on offense and wasn't as athletic as he once was, he was a lights out shooter regardless, and that allowed him to stay on the court for a significant period of time, even as a veteran, and contribute to high level basketball. I think that's going to be the case with Stephen Curry, right? When Curry is no longer as quick as he once was and isn't able to get downhill as we've seen him do through his career, he's always going to have his jump shot to fall back on. With Russ, one of the biggest reasons why his value is in question right now is you wonder what skill set he has to fall back on that doesn't utilize his athleticism as heavy, because let's face it, he's no longer as athletic as he once was. So what can Russell Westbrook do right now to still contribute to winning at a high level? It's a legitimate question because he did not bring too much value to the Denver Nuggets last year in the playoffs, especially in that series against OKC where his plus minus was absolutely abysmal, and his plus minus through the entirety of the season with the Nuggets was not great either, right? Like right now, I would understand why GMs would want to be passive and apprehensive about wanting to bring Russell Westbrook in, because you do wonder what skill set does he have right now to fall back on that would allow him to still contribute to high level winning right now. Like the thing with Russ is over the last couple of years, he's just found himself into too many situations where he was not a fit. And if it happens once where you're on a team where you just don't fit with the other guys, that's fine. But Russ has consistently not been a fit over the last couple of seasons. So at some point in time, you have to wonder, is there something that Russ is not doing that is allowing him to not be a fit with other guys, right? Why is Russ constantly finding himself in situations where he is playing a role he's not comfortable in? Again, if it's once, I get it. But if it's multiple times, then you're really concerned about what he's bringing to the table as a player. I think the biggest issue is simply the fact that he was never a good enough off-ball player, never got a reliable reliable enough jump shot. So when you put him next to other guys like a Nikola Jokic or like a Kawhi Leonard or a James Harden when he was with the Clippers, when you're putting him next to those players, you wonder, where is Russell Westbrook's value going, right? What is he going to be able to contribute around players who right now are better than him, right? Players who won't allow him to be that number one option on offense. What is Russell Westbrook able to do right now at a high level that will allow him to really contribute to winning? Does he have that skill set we just talked about to really fall back on? That's why Russ right now is in this weird spot in his career where teams just don't really know his value and where to place him at, right? And now with that being said, I do think there are some spots that would be good for him, that would be a solid enough fit. And I'm not saying it'll bring out this prime version of Russell Westbrook again, but I do think there are a few spots that will allow him to prosper and still contribute. My favorite would be the Knicks, right? I think ideally the Knicks would be a perfect situation for him because of their ability to stretch the floor. They'd be putting him around a ton of shooters. That is exactly the situation Russ would thrive in. I don't think he'd be good closing out games next to Jalen Brunson, but if you're still looking to get effective minutes from Russ, maybe put him in the second lineup around a bunch of floor spacers and allow him to act as the primary initiator and orchestrator on the offensive end. So there are still some spots where Russell Westbrook can exist in and can still contribute. But again, the central issue for him is the fact that he's not been able to cultivate a skill set he can fall back on. And that is the driving factor behind him just not being able to find a fit these last couple of years. Again, I'll reiterate, if you are constantly in a situation where you're quote unquote not a fit, then you'd have to look at the mirror and wonder, what can you get better at to make yourself a much more serviceable player? I'm not saying Russ doesn't try, because Russ still plays his ass off. He still competes his ass off. You can never take that away from Russell Westbrook. But the issue with him right now at this point in his career is he is difficult to try to figure out as far as placing him on the court, because you're not sure what he can contribute if he's not able to be this number one option primary ball handler. And even if he's doing that, could he still be an effective player in that sort of role? Like if you compare him to a Kyrie, if you take Kyrie off the ball, he's fine. He did it with Luka. He did it a bit with LeBron. He can exist in multiple situations on the offensive end when he's not the primary ball handler and initiator. Russ does not have that aspect to his game, and I think that's why he's at the point he's at currently. So we'll see. I do hope a team picks him up, because Russ is still one of my favorite players. As much as I critiqued him in this video, still an amazing player, still an amazing guy, and did have some good moments last season. But again, I'm not mad at GMs and front offices not being 100% sure about the value Russell Westbrook can provide to a team trying to get over the hump and contend for a title.